Let's write a decorator that'll help us to try any function for the counter that we need. So here's a sample script where we call an API which returns a JSON. We pass the output and present it in a required form. This is the sample output that we get. So let's start writing the decorator that we need. We'll start with importing. First thing we'll import is wraps from functools that will help us write a better decorator. Then import time, that'll help us make it sleep for the delay that we need on each retry, and then logging to log the failures and successes like messages on each retry. Let's configure the basic config for logging as to log to a file. Let's call it call retry.log for now. This can be parameterized and set to whatever you need. Encoding to UTF-8. And level to logging.warning. Let's start with the decorator function. We'll call it retry. We'll pass it delay as the first parameter. Max will be the counter of the max retries. Backoff will be the multiplier that will be added to delays. Multiply to delays. Fail would be true or false. That will decide if the last retry failure would raise an exception or just turn a null based on behavior needed. Let's write the retry core, which will have the logic wrapped into retry inner for calling the function, increasing the retry counters, etc. We'll pass it the arguments and keyword arguments. Now with the main logic for the decorator, to start with, we'll just log that a call has been made for a particular function. And the retry config that will have. So this will let us know if a particular function call has been made. Next, let's start with assigning a counter that starts from 1 and then raises up to max. So while counter goes up to max, or if max is -1 itself, that will mean infinite retries. It will wait for a particular delay seconds and then multiply the delay with backoff to increase the delay after each retry. Now in try block, we'll call the functions that to be retried, pass the arguments and keyword arguments, log if the call has been successful, otherwise it'll just raise an exception and move ahead. So this will be succeeded for the retry at the counter. You can simply use the counter number here itself. And then we can simply return the retry. Let's handle the exception. We'll need to raise the counter and log the error. Let's copy the line and just change the message. So failed. Let's move the counter below so we can use the counter value itself. Otherwise we'll have to do counter -1 if we increment it beforehand. And let's use a variable called exception placeholder, where we'll assign the last handle exception, and if the fail would be true, we'll simply raise it. otherwise it won't even reach that logical point and will return the red 12 beforehand itself. So outside the while block, if fail is true, raise the exception holder. Now let's come out of the retry core, return the retry core, and out, return the retry inner. Let's save it. Let's check. So we'll assign the delay, max, backoff and fail into a dictionary assigned to retry CFG. So they're easily available without any issues within the retry core. Let's structure it so they are available as the same key names. Should be good. Now let's get these variables back from the return CFG within the body of retry core. I've seen scope issues happening otherwise, so this is a better practice that I follow just to avoid the scope issues. Let's save it and give it a quick check. Nothing else is wrong. Let's add the logging of retry CFG as well. Oh, let's correct this typo. Return. Now that it looks fine, let's open our sample HTTP-GET and let's try to use this retry. So from retry, we'll import a retry function. To begin with, let's just pass in a delay for 2 seconds. Since our service is running, let's try that out. This should pass. Let's check the log file. We see it saying retry it one. The thing is, even for the first try, it'll go to the retry block. Which reminds me, I'll have to fix the way sleep's working. Let's do that later once we have checked all. So we'll stop the service. Let's try it now. Should have gotten sub. We'll start the service again. Should passed. Let's check the try. So it failed for 4 turns and succeeded 5 when we started the service. But it didn't show any issues because it didn't fail all through. Now we won't start the service and should fail, and we should see the raised error message as well. Here it is. As you see, all the retries have failed. Now let's pass in the other variables as well with some tweaked values. We'll reduce the max counter to 3 instead of 5, backoff of just 1, so no changes. Let's just make it 2 so it doubles, and we'll make the fail false, so we won't be getting any raised exception outside. The service is still not running, so it should fail 3 times and then give up. working fine. We got 3 retries and then it gave up. Now let's fix the sleep. So for the first time it should sleep from the retry onwards. So we'll just cut it and move it below the first try. So after the first try it'll sleep and then try again.